Wow, today we saw incredible news that the first central bank in the world has started adopting cryptocurrencies. Yes, it is Iran as the first country to do this, but we see this country as someone who's struggling in this current economic time where they rely on a lot of oil and commodity as far as where they get their income from. So they've started adopting this cryptocurrency that many central banks see as a very speculative bet. But as we see more companies in the US transition to hold this as a reserve asset, like companies like MicroStrategy, Jack Dorsey's company Twitter, and now we see PayPal starting to actually accept cryptocurrencies. They're going to accept Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, and XRP in this coming 2021 year. And it's very, very interesting as we see all these trends stack on each other, especially with this first central bank news. Absolutely incredible. If you would have said 5 years ago, even 2 years ago, that a country would actually adopt a cryptocurrency as a reserve asset, people would laugh you away. But countries are starting to see the actual benefit of this. And we actually see Mongolia's biggest bank in the whole country of Mongolia starting to accept cryptocurrencies as used for services. And this trend just keeps on progressing. We know that China really, really likes these currencies, and we see throughout the global economy the coming wave of central bank digital currencies. So this would be something like a digital dollar or a digital euro. There already is a digital yen that's being used in China. And as this trend continues, you start looking at the actual qualities of the money that you're using. So if you're using something like the dollar, the euro, or the yen, these are all inflationary monetary assets. And when you look at something like Bitcoin, it's inherently deflationary. So if you don't understand the basics of Bitcoin, basically it's programmable money. So it's the first decentralized programmable money where it's written in the code, anyone can see the code, that every 4 years there's something called the halving. So the incoming supply of Bitcoin into the market on a daily basis is cut in half every 4 years. And eventually, in the future, that supply will be cut all the way down, so it's basically none. So there will never be any more than 21 million Bitcoin in the whole supply. And this may seem like a lot if you aren't familiar with Bitcoin, but I'm assuming if you made it this far in the video, you follow and you kind of understand the basics of Bitcoin. If you realize that having this programmable money, having this really insurance policy is how a lot of companies are seeing it. That's why Michael Saylor, the CEO of MicroStrategies, chose Bitcoin as a reserve asset. In these crazy uncertain times, he talks about this on many podcasts and many interviews. He was looking, where can I put my money in these corona times? I don't want to hold it in cash. That's getting inflated, as we talked about. Those monetary policies, they're inflationary. When we inject $2 trillion into the economy, that's not just coming out of thin air. Where that's coming from is printing. So it's actually devaluing all the dollars that are currently in supply. So you don't know how much money is currently being printed on a daily basis in the US economy. You can see what the Federal Reserve says, but nobody actually knows. And that's why Bitcoin is so important. There's no guessing. And that's why the main phrase in this whole market is the kind of crypto space is don't trust, verify. And that's why having decentralized currency like Bitcoin is so powerful, because you don't have to trust anyone. There's no Federal Reserve. There's no bureaucracy that you have to trust whether or not they're telling the truth. You can see it written in the code. It's hard programmed in the code. You cannot change it. There will only be 21 million Bitcoin ever. Full stop. There's no injecting more. And if you hold your private keys and you own your own Bitcoin, it's something that's very, very interesting for not only companies we see now. We started off with individuals, then we see groups, then we see companies, but now we're seeing actual central banks. This is huge. And what a lot of maximalist Bitcoins think is that eventually, when it goes to the moon, as people say, progresses, that it has a chance to eclipse gold's market cap. And when it does this, Bitcoin if you hold one Bitcoin, it would be over $300,000 plus is what it's worth. Currently, it's around $13,000. The price has been very volatile in these times, as we see in the stock market, but very, very interesting news, seeing the first central bank actually adopt cryptocurrency and hold it as a reserve asset. You see that trend. You see the companies accepting it. You see PayPal now going to be using it in 2021. Madness, absolutely crazy. If people would have said this even 2 years ago, you would have been laughed away. But we're seeing the actual value of having something that's deflationary. We see a lot of the issues with centralization with, if you're in the US, our current government, and really in any other country, the corruption and the manipulation that goes on behind closed doors. With crypto, it's an open door. That's the benefit of decentralization, and that's why we're going to see more countries actually accept Bitcoin, hold it as a reserve asset, because in these times, a lot of central banks, what they do is they hold commodities. So things like gold, silver, assets like oil, they'll hold as reserve currencies to back up their currency. And when the dollar went off the gold standard, it really became the situation where you can just debase the currency. You can just inject liquidity into the market, and we've consistently had a 2% inflation rate over the past 10 years. At least that's what they show to us. We can't know exactly because we have to trust them, and not a lot of people, if you actually understand how these central banks work, trust them. You want to be able to verify, and that's how the benefits of crypto come into play. That's why Bitcoin is so important. So seeing all these trends stack on top of each other, just to summarize, Iran buying Bitcoin as a reserve asset, Mongolia's largest bank actually using crypto-backed services. Then you see all these massive companies, PayPal, MicroStrategies, tons of other companies actually holding Bitcoin as a reserve asset. And then you see all the uncertainty in the marketplace with the current dollar system. Nobody that actually understands the market doubts that we're going to see hyperinflation moving on past this pandemic, especially if another stimulus bill is passed, which most likely it will be. So thank you very much for watching this video. If you have any comments or any ideas around this topic, definitely leave us a comment down below. Also, leave us a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Also, hit that notification bell, select all. Thank you very much for listening. As always, hope you stay happy and healthy and invest global. Peace.